Welcome, everyone, to this special live episode of the Higher Ed Geek podcast. We're here in Portland, Maine for the eduWeb Summit. This is our first interview that we're doing here on site. We've got a couple of good ones lined up for you, so stay tuned for those to come across in your feed soon. But we're here with Destinee from Workzone. So if you want to introduce yourself briefly, kind of who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about what Workzone does.
Absolutely. So Destinee Mack, I'm the VP of Customer Success at Workzone, and Workzone is a project management, task management tool for higher education teams, helping you across your universities, colleges, and campuses to manage your project, either by department or across the company.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting that there's a few like project management companies here, which is like really cool to see because I think it's such a kind of important enabler of the complexity and kind of the variety and kind of just the extent of work that there's a lot of kind of enrollment folks here and marketing folks here, but like I said, kind of across the entire institution, it's just important to be keeping things organized and everything. And I've been kind of beating this drum, I feel like, for a while. Like I've always just kind of been fascinated by kind of the versatility of these kind of tools. But before we get too far into kind of talking about all of that, or kind of what you're hearing and seeing and stuff, but at this event in particular, like how's it been going for you? Like, has there been any interesting sessions or conversations or things that you've had so far? We're kind of like, I guess as we're recording this, like nearing the end of day 2. It's like 2.5 day event here, but any highlights for you so far?
Absolutely. The traffic flow has been great. Just this industry as a whole is such a great one. People are very curious and creative in their questionings, and the conversations be great. My favorite sessions has all been around AI, to be honest, and very interesting to see how that's being discussed at this level, where there are advantages and benefits to these campuses, where that helps them and where they need to be cautious. That's been very interesting for me to listen to.
Yeah, and we're planning on talking with Hulda for one of our episodes here. They have the AI studio, so it's definitely like it's in the air. Obviously, I think any higher ed event is definitely interfacing with AI a lot, and there's certainly a lot of kind of manifestations of it, depending on kind of who you're talking to and all that. But again, with this kind of conversation here, I wanted to kind of dig in with kind of, from your vantage point, what you're seeing and hearing from like the partners that you're serving or people that are reaching out to you to kind of inquire more about your tool. Because I think it is that idea that I think higher ed has gone without for a long time. I think these project management platforms just keep getting better and better and more kind of specialized and everything. So like that idea of institutions are trying to do more with less. They've got a lot of competing priorities and pressures and things. So like, what's your kind of like pulse check on, this sort of moment when it comes to how higher ed leaders are trying to kind of confront all these like competing priorities, keep things organized, get things done on time and that sort of thing. So like, what have you been kind of seeing and hearing on that front?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on that front, that they are absolutely being demanded to do more with less. The pressures on them are coming from all sides. Some people are having less student enrollments, plus the governmental pressures that are on them right now, the budgetary constraints. They're being asked to do things that they never have before, and their teams are being stretched in ways they never have before. And the faculty is needing relief in that way. And so one of the things that we see is having a tool that can manage all the different ways that you're intaking, whether you're a digital and creative team, you're redesigning a website, you have admissions happening over here. All those different teams are having to intake work from different people. They then need to be able to see what works on their plate already, visualize that in a way, and collaborate with teams outside of that tool oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the tools out there are very task-based and, in, out. But you may need to manage workload. You may need to see that you're struggling over here in this department. Your team is historically not getting their projects done. Or maybe you need to collaborate on some sort of content or visualization, and you need to do that inside and out. You need something to do that with. And people can use Excel, they can use email. And a lot of people we've been talking to here still are doing that, or have had to get rid of tools that were maybe making them pay for all those licenses all in one, and every single user having it. It's just kind of getting impossible for them. And yet they need to see it now and visualize what's on their plate now more than ever, and ask for things from their leadership in order to support the initiatives that they have on their plate.
Yeah, I think there's so many kind of interesting pieces of what you said of like, yeah, just like how are you managing like who's in the platform and that sort of thing is I think an interesting piece because I think that could be where it's like, well, the marketing team uses like one thing or another and they love it and they
100%.
like wholeheartedly embrace it, but then like they have to interact with other people and can they even get into the platform, whatever else. So like you either like still then need to like do work outside the platform or with something else, or you just kind of like hit like a kind of a brick wall. But I think just the idea of like that we're at a point of uh that maybe higher ed is just more open to uh, certainly like something that's a little bit more tailor made to them or more conducive to the way that they work versus it being, something that, because I think a lot of these platforms, when we were kind of speaking yesterday, like, came up maybe to be vastly cater to like tech industries or
Project
something,
managers,
or
yeah,
yeah,
high
like,
tech.
yeah. So I think like that idea, I don't know, like just if, because I know you were speaking to sort of like being able to also like kind of glean, insights into just sort of like, well, this is like how a lot of people do this work. Like you can kind of like start getting like tailor made best practices or sort of suggestions and templates or whatever. Like, so I guess
Yeah.
any of that is just sort of like, okay, like you're, interfacing a lot with the higher ed audience on this sort of topic. What are some of those things that you're like learning, I guess, of how best to sort of support them if you
Yeah,
want to
you
expand
nailed
on that
it.
a
We've
bit?
been around 23 years. And so marketing and agencies were our first stop, but higher ed marketing teams were right behind there. And we kind of started out with just those teams. You mentioned having certain teams use this and another one over here. And each one is kind of doing their own thing and they're all dealing with individual budgets. And the way that we think about it, we're happy to do that inside your organization, but we're also happy to um, really think of this as you can have your own individual department or team on its own version of this, but still share data across. And you mentioned the templating and all that, leveraging our own AI. Um, without getting into proprietary information, we know how projects are being ran. We know how an admissions office is running projects through it and what they need to do each time along the way. We know what your design and creative teams need to do with your templates. And so we took all that and we have over 200 higher education specific, departmental specific templates. You could also upload your own, right? Everyone thinks they're unique and creative, and they are in a lot of ways. But you can either tweak what we have or use that. But that really helps you stand up different departments very easy. Some of these one-to-many tools that you mentioned, you really have to have an administrator on your staff to do that. And these higher ed teams don't have that capacity. So either they have to use a really simple task management tool in out without all these bells and whistles, or they have to have an administrator do it. And so we kind of fit, the Goldilocks right in the middle, the just right fit for you, where you don't have to be a project manager, but yet you can drive best in class project management type intake, output, task deliveries within a platform like this. And that really drives what higher ed needs for their collaborations. And you don't have to have a license. You can be a collaborator and a viewer and just get those pieces that you need to collaborate on that artifact or that document.
The big thing for me, and so much kind of undercurrent of what you're saying, is like that I think with any tool, you need to like implement it well, implement it efficiently, and sort of like, whether it's just sort of like, okay, well, it's really great out of the box, like, and, or that
You
idea
have
where
a
it's like,
champion, right?
right,
Somebody has
like,
to know how you're putting your workflows into that.
yeah. And the idea that like, it can be streamlined in a sense of like, okay, well, we already have like, this is how, a lot of teams do this. So like take that as a jumping off point, use it as is or whatever, versus it being like, here's a whole, kind of multi-use tool or whatever, like good
Build from
luck,
scratch.
and whatever. So it's like, you would hope that there's an efficiency and an effectiveness with sort of the onboarding and implementation of any tool like this, and then the sort of ease of use and just having something that can be the catalyst to like get things done and like, like you're saying, also like track work, see, who's behind, why, how behind are they, and because I think, yeah, like there's just so much I think in higher ed that unfortunately has been ruled by like, anecdotes, kind of just like shooting from the hip, or like, I don't know, we'll figure it out, everything kind of works out one way or another kind of thing. But like, It's like, wouldn't you like to have a little bit more sort of assuredness and certainty of just being like, well, we're going to do this. Here's all the steps that we need to do. And like, we need it done by this point. And it's going to like kind of,
Yeah, as a
backdate from there, whatever.
head,
Like,
you get to see all that, but you can also allow your individual departments to manage their own things.
right. Yeah. It's like, yeah, if you want to create like your own, because I think that's the other part of it is like a tool that can kind of adapt to like, well, I like to view all my tasks this way. I want to be like a calendar. I want to view my tasks this way. So like,
make a creative
yeah.
team and an admissions team do the same thing on the same platform because you have one build of it because you had this chance to do it, and it really breaks at scale for them.
Yeah. So I think just with all of that, I think it's, kind of establishing kind of the table stakes here. So the challenges and everything, just if you have any sort of like highlighted, case study examples or anything, but just like how you're seeing higher institutions kind of navigating this moment of these competing priorities, like obviously like, if they're using a tool in the way that we've sort of outlined, do you have just anything that's top of mind kind of that is indicative of how, they're being more efficient, more effective with all the work that they're trying to do?
Without name dropping, feel free to go to our website and see the customer names. But we have some pretty large institutions and systems utilizing us, and they're utilizing us at a system scale. So if you think about systems, universities, college campuses, departments, the fact that we scale up or down with that as much or as you want across your system is hugely beneficial. We have some campuses doing Workzone is the tool for every budgetary meeting they have for the following year. Workzone data is upfront to say, we asked you to do this in a given time. Here's what you did in a good time with the resources you have. You're coming at me asking for 5 more resources to do the exact same work. How are we looking at this? So when you again think scaled out, what this type of data can do for you as an organization, it's almost limitless depending on how you exercise that right. It can truly drive your budgets and how you're running your campuses.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of take on this too. Is like, because I think we've talked a lot about like kind of tasks and workflows and projects, but then like if you start to zoom out, it's like this can help you maybe determine like who do we need to hire when or whatever, like just that sort of like capacity management.
Management. Yeah, exactly. Time management, capacity management become these like things that you don't think about, but are table stakes in the end of what this data can really spit out for you when you're managing truly the big system initiatives through a tool like this.
Yeah. And I think if, certain departments are maybe just having to like, go to bat much more so now for like, I need a new staff member, whatever else. And it's going to be like, just because I said so, trust me, whatever. Like now you could be like, here's some receipts of like, this is how much time it takes to do the things. And especially if it's like, well, now you're asking me to do X, Y, or Z, that's going to require another person or whatever. And like, I didn't give you like very clear examples versus just being like, just the sort of anecdotal thing.
Work, right? Like it's actually, you're asking me to do more. Cool. Where's the give? Because here's what we accomplished. So again, you just become an empowered and informed department head of what you need to do because you have that full visibility. And other tools, if you're just managing a task, then you're not managing full capacity. Maybe you can tell the story, but you're doing that in spreadsheets and you're calculating that and figure back of the napkin math where this spits it out and shows it to you in real time.
Yeah.
You can see where those are going to be a challenge in the future based on the projects you have. You can see forward in that. So now you're looking at leading indicators, not crap, we're in trouble. How do we backfill this, or how are we going to get this done with the limited resources we have?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that is, all of this is probably, music to the ears of, our various listeners, or certainly the folks here, the marketing enrollment folks and stuff. Like it is just that idea of like, if there's just going to be those competing priorities, pressures, sort of the asks and everything, like hopefully, on one hand, it's the like, okay, we can organize all that and just kind of get it done more effectively and efficiently, but then also like have more informed conversations about like, what does it really mean when you're asking me to do, X, Y, or Z, like what do we need to be able to meet that? Because obviously, like, all of this could be said of like, oh, you're trying to like just be like, we can't do it or whatever. It's like, hey, no. Like, I will do it for you, but this is what I need. This sort of give and take, like you're saying. So, yeah. So I think, like, I think it's the idea of like if we're all sort of like, working off the same sheet of music, sort of thing. Like it's kind of a beautiful thing, and I think just great to see that. Really wholeheartedly embracing project management through having a good tool and platform and sort of philosophy and just sort of culture on your team can, I think, create a lot of, kind of micro and macro sort of benefits for particular department, team, and the whole institution, really. So
yeah, I want to emphasize that the other thing I hear quite frequently is we don't have project managers. So how they maybe don't want to take on a project management tool. And what I'll say is certain tools like ours, you don't need to be. If it's built the right way, you should be receiving what you need to receive to do the part that you need to do. And a lot of these people here, I've been talking to them, and the agencies that are here, there's so many agencies that are helping these marketing teams to do the work. Well, now you're being asked to collaborate outside of your tool with this third-party agency group, and you need to be able to have a way to track that effort because you're paying them to do it and them to track that effort. And so we come in and we are actually the tool at those agencies partnering with the higher ed groups to use this as a collaboration. So it really kind of goes beyond just that for all the different people they're working with, having a way to manage that as well. So inside and outside your organization.
It's really, really interesting stuff. And I think, just appreciate kind of your willingness to sort of navigate this conversation, because I think it's, like it could be maybe intimidating, or people don't feel like it's like relevant to them because it's like, well, I'm not a project manager or whatever, but it's like, it's kind of all of our jobs, and it should be able to be all of our jobs of like, managing our own work, but being able to like collaborate with others and everything, and have platforms that are sort of user friendly to help enable that. But as we wrap up here, always just like to end on this as sort of the final thought, and sort of to bring everything together, just sort of what advice would you be giving to higher ed leaders right now from your perspective?
These restraints that we're in are not ending. AI is coming. We all know that. So look for partners in tools that are looking forward and ahead, those 5 and 10 years into where we're going. And look for people that are willing to stay that long haul with you. We're a human support team and a human onboarding team. And I think look for people that are wanting to create that human connection, because as AI continues to grow, we need to continue to find those ways to connect that way, because they're going to continue to run into those challenges on the budget constraints. I don't see that ending, and I know they don't either. So just know that it's coming, and let's be creative in the way that we're implementing it in a way that benefits a higher ed as a whole, and look for those partners that are looking for that as well.
It's great stuff. And I think just appreciate you being here and being willing to be on for an episode and share all that you did. We'll have ways to connect with Destinee and Workzone in the show notes. And just really great chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dustin.